What's up, everybody? This is the People Man Talks podcast. I'm your host, Emanuel Solomon, the People Man. I'm an interpersonal skills coach who helps high-performing professionals of color to promote and reposition with power through increasing their cultural, emotional intelligence. I have a passion for working with professionals of color, and I'm a coach to help my clients and my folks to ascend to the highest levels of their potential. And today, I have the pleasure, I have the privilege of working with a high performing professional of color who actually is one of my closest friends, Emmanuel Williams. Okay, now first, some of you might not know who he is, but Emmanuel Williams has been just instrumental in my growth, helping me to understand my identity on a whole nother level. Now, what I want to first let you know is he's an identity coach. He's an identity coach. He helps millennials, Black millennials, uh, to understand who they are and have a bulletproof personal identity so that they can be prosperous in everything that they do. So look, this is my dude. Welcome to the show, Emmanuel Williams.
My God, I appreciate it, bro. That's a humbling intro, man. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Man, and I, I'm excited because this is the thing. When you have, very rarely are you able to have a friend and a business associate who pushes you and who actually um, refines your growth. And I think we've been that for each other. But I want to make sure that the audience knows uh, exactly who you are, what you do, and I want to make sure that I don't. Uh, sometimes as friends, we can downplay each other's ability because we're used to it. It's normalized. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
Like it becomes like one of those things where, oh yeah, he's doing his thing. No, he's not just doing his thing. He's doing X, Y, and Z, and he's specializing in this area. He's cultivating this area. He's elite in this area, and as Black professionals and as people in general, we become more and more elite in the areas that we specialize in. And one of the areas that you specialize in is identity coaching. Tell me
Mm-hmm.
about identity coaching. Tell me about that, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's like you said, that's my passion. That's how I brand myself because that's what I focus on. And so once again, like you said, my goal is to help Black millennials create and cultivate, a rock solid identity, and so that they can create universal abundance and universal wealth. And when it comes to creating abundance and creating wealth and putting yourself in an advantageous position to be able to do that on a consistent basis, that only comes from intentionality. And so that's why, one would need a coach and should invest in a coach to be able to help create and cultivate that intentionality for that. And so, there's a lot of activities that come into play when people think about wealth creation. But what I'm talking about when I say universal wealth and universal abundance is um, this the strategies and the systems that I create, no matter who you are, where you're from, you will be able to take this strategy and use it. And regardless of the power structure that's in place, whether it's whatever global supremacy that's going on, whether it's white supremacy, whether it's Asian supremacy, it don't matter who's supreme at the time, what I give you is going to be able to help you navigate through that.
This is so important. I wanted to say this because what you're telling me is basically it don't matter where you at, what part of the globe you're on.
No.
Your coaching, your understanding of identity coaching can help Black millennials right now.
Right. Like after you go through my coaching system, we can get in a plane, put a parachute on your back, drop you off anywhere on God's green earth, and you will triple your worth. I promise you that. You know what I mean? So that's the idea, that's the vision, and that's the goal of what I do.
Okay. Okay. This
Yeah.
is the thing about Emmanuel Williams, and he might not tell you this, but you know he's had an amazing journey to getting here. First, you know, he's worked he does a lot of stuff um outside of the scenes. Like, you know, he's not one of those dudes that likes to be seen. So he's doing a lot of stuff. Like when I talk to him on a regular basis, and he's, you know, counseling with these different groups who want a black perspective, who want uh, a deeper black understanding, and also a cultural understanding. And he'll just be doing this on a regular basis, coaching and consulting and mentoring folks, and not just, you know, at that level, but also he goes back into the community, and he works with kids, and he mentors kids. He's been one of those dudes that really exemplifies that standard of really giving back and not letting the right hand know what the left hand is doing. It's not about accolades for him. And so with those type of people, you have to lift them up, and you have to let them know that they're doing amazing stuff. And that's why I got him on the show, because he's a high performing professional of color, an entrepreneur. Um, he's worked in sales for like 10 years, even before this. So he has a extensive background of understanding how to communicate in difficult situations, difficult content and subject matter. And he has an amazing podcast that if you're black and you don't know about this podcast, then that's a knock on you. You need to go check out Socks and Sandals podcast. Socks and Sandals podcast, where he's giving you the deeper meanings of what blackness is, culture, and giving us a perspective that is straight to the point, nitty and gritty. And we need those folks, and you got to support those folks, because as our voices become more and more silent, we understand white supremacy and the different systems continue to dominate, and we won't have a voice at all if we don't start supporting those folks. So Emmanuel, where can they find you at? Where can they go and find you at? Where can they plug in and tap into your stuff?
For sure, man. Once again, appreciate the highlighting the podcast, because that's my life's work right now, man. And it's been a big part of my life for the past 3 years, and it's opened up a lot of doors and created a lot of opportunities. So it's been an amazing journey thus far. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you can go find the podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever podcasts are at, I'm there. So you can search Socks and Sandals, SOX and Sandals, SANDALS. And personally, you can connect with me on Instagram. My personal Instagram is Emanuel since 85, and it's Emanuel spelled the correct way. So EMMANUEL. Two M's, guys. So Emanuel since 85, and then you can also go to my show page on Instagram at Socks and Sandals Podcast. You can also follow me on Twitter at SXSNDLS, or you can search Socks and Sandals Podcast. But yeah, man, Socks and Sandals is where society, culture, history, and religion collide, and we unapologetically discuss our worldview. So it's a platform for unapologetic expression, talking about all things Black culture, Black society, religion, and just how we relate to history and how we relate to each other.
Okay. Well, um, through this show, I'm also gonna get like stuff falling on me because I'm right underneath the tree. Yesterday, I was actually sitting under this tree and doing another podcast episode, and like bugs was crawling on me, and I had a spider on my finger. It was crazy, man. This is real life. This is Corona life in the backyard. But you know, I already know who you are, dude. Like I already know you, but the audience, they have no idea who you are. So give us a little bit of your story. Tell us about you.
Yeah, man. So born and raised in Portland, Oregon, born in 85. So I grew up in the 90s. Those are my formative years. And, grew up on 15th and going right off of Alberta. So right in the heart of Black Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And, back then and even now, Portland is the whitest metropolitan city in the country, statistically, like that's a fact.
Yeah.
But you know, growing up in Portland, as you know, like we actually had black
We
communities
did.
like in North and Northeast Portland. So
Yes.
that was a luxury that we didn't realize how much of a luxury it was. But now with gentrification, you know, it is what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
even though we had our own insular communities and we had our family and we had our church and all that type of stuff, you know, you still have to go out, you know. And so when you go to the store, when you go to the bank, when you go to school, when you go to tournaments, when you're playing sports, like everywhere you go outside of your little neighborhood, all you see is white people. And so you quickly realize that you're an other, and
Mm.
that othership is something else, you know. And
Mm.
um you know, growing up, I really realized that at school, you know, as kids, just in our formative years, when we think about it, we spend more time at school consistently than we spend anywhere else. And so when you're, you know, me being outnumbered in school all the time, and I've always been like, basically like kind of smart, like kind of bright. I pick up on things really quickly. And so I
Mm-hmm.
always, I always typically like performed well in my classes, right? But I
Mm-hmm.
always noticed that I wouldn't get the respect and the accolades and the adulation that the other white kids would get.
Right.
I would just get treated a certain type of way just based upon who I was and how I, you know, just what I brought to the table
Because you're black.
because I'm black. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so one thing that I noticed, not until like I'm an adult now, but one thing that I noticed that a lot of us do when we're, you know, severely outnumbered is that we adapt, you know, and we start to adapt the way that we talk and adapt you know, the things that we do so that we won't get in trouble or we won't make white, you know, my white teacher mad or the principal or whoever the authority figure is. We adapt to be able to, you know, survive and exist with a more harmonious existence, for lack of a better term, you know, in that
Without getting
environment.
a pat, without getting a lashing.
Exactly. So, but it's one or the other. It's either you don't adapt and you get the lashing, and then you're on that, you know, school to prison pipeline, and you're on that path that they've already set for you, or you adapt to be able to, you know, avoid that and avoid being in trouble and being able to still reach whatever goals or aspirations that you have. But as a kid, you're not thinking that deep. But that's just either you do it or you don't, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so um so that's that. But then like I was fortunate, you know, after high school, graduated, and then went to Texas Southern University, a historically black college in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And that was life
Yeah.
changing. And that was the moment, like when I was in Houston and when I was at a HBCU, that was the moment that I realized that I didn't have to be a other. Like I was the majority. So that was the first time in my life where I could feel comfortable in my own skin. And
Mm.
it wasn't, you know, like I
Mm.
said, we
Mm-hmm.
had black
Mm-hmm.
churches,
Mm-hmm.
we even had black schools, we went to dances, we went to SEI, like we had our spaces, our safe spaces, but I could never fully tap into who I was and be
But
comfortable in it.
In Houston, it was all black everything, right?
Yeah, man. Like you know, the HBCU, Texas Southern, was in a black neighborhood in Third Ward, Houston, Texas, man. Like so, everywhere I went, you know what I mean. I went to the grocery store, there's black people ringing me up. I went to the bank, you know what I mean. If I got a job, I had a black boss. If I, you know, I'm going to concerts, all the entertainment venues is black. You know, I'm getting pulled
Mm-hmm.
over by black police officers. You know what I mean? Like even little stuff like that. It's like it's not necessarily a pleasant experience, but man, everybody's black. You know, my professors are black. The president of the school is black. Like everybody. And so I wasn't an other. I wasn't being discriminated against. You
So
know.
that was the first time when you felt like um, just a new liberation of blackness. That's kind of where that started your journey.
Yeah. I mean, that was just the moment in time where I realized what I was missing, and I
Mm-hmm.
realized that, oh, like I thought I knew like what it meant to be black and like who we are and how we operate. But then when I get in an environment where we're just operating at such a higher level, and it's a common thing, like for us, especially, it was a lot of people from Portland that went to that school with me. And for us to see black professors in abundance, black professionals, black PhDs, black, you know,
Mm-hmm.
VPs, black entrepreneurs all over the place, it
That's
was
kind
just like, oh, this isn't some rare thing that should just be celebrated because you see one person that's has some type of success. Like, no, this is normal. Like you should be operating like this. You shouldn't be doing it any other way. So yeah, that was definitely eye-opening and liberating. Yeah, man. So as you can tell, like college was an amazing experience for me. It was very eye opening, very liberating, very
Mm-hmm.
empowering. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and but I've been in Portland ever since college. And one might ask, like, well, why didn't you go back? Why didn't you stay? You know, but so I graduated in 2007 and I had multiple job offers here in Portland at home. Excuse me. I had multiple job offers waiting for me. And so I took the best one. And my plan was to work for a year, stay with my parents, stack up my money,
Mm-hmm.
and then move back to Houston. But graduated December of '07. The economy tanked in
Yep.
'08, like, you
Yep.
know what I mean,
The bubble.
the fall of '08. So um I had a really good job. I was working in insurance, in sales, and uh that was like basically a recession proof business at the time. I don't know if it still is, but it was great at the time. So I was making good money, and every year I was making more money and more money as I got better in sales. And so I couldn't just like give up my good job to go to Texas to an economy that where nobody is hiring. Because I know people that graduated in '08 that didn't get solid jobs until 2010, 2011, you know, so that's how bad it was. And
I
so,
remember.
yeah, bro. So you know what it is. Like everybody went through it. So so I ended up staying home, and then boom, had a baby. Oh, boom, got married. Boom, bought a house, and so now I'm like rooted here in Portland. But it's like, all right, so I'm back in Portland, and I know what it is to feel liberated and feel comfortable in my own skin. And
Mm-hmm.
so now dealing with whiteness after having that experience, bro, after going
Okay.
to the promised land, now I went back. You know, it's just like
The
it
discomfort level had to
hurts.
have been shocking.
Oh, it hurts, bro. And it's just like I'm coming back working in corporate America, walking through the halls, saying hi to people, saying good morning, they're not saying hi back. There was certain people on that job that wouldn't look me in the eye. You know, it's just like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
just wouldn't show me
Mm-hmm.
any respect, any
Mm-hmm.
regard. I'm like, what is this? And so that's like my early 20s. And once again, like you still try to adapt. And it's like, man, maybe it's my facial expression, maybe it's this, maybe it's that.
Can I say something about that? Because I think my audience needs to understand this. And this is
Yeah.
like when you're a professional, you're a black or brown professional, and you're in these white, like basically whitened environments, right? Whether
Mm-hmm.
it's all white or mostly white, it doesn't matter. The system is white, and so
Yeah.
even just the term professional or the term these different ideas are designed to be counter to who you are. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's not you. It's not you. There's nothing
Right.
wrong with you, black
Yeah.
man, black woman, brown woman. There's nothing wrong with you. As a matter of fact, you are killing it on a level that you haven't even really discovered yet. And that
Mm-hmm.
frustration that you're getting isn't because you're less than or you're not enough. It's because you're being viewed in a white scale, with the white scale, with the white measuring stick, and you will never measure up. So you're gonna have to make a conscious decision, a conscious decision to really know who you are and what you're
Yeah.
about.
And for sure. Um and I just want to build on that what you said, which was beautiful. Is like it's not you. But however, there are some things that we do.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah,
know, there are
yeah,
some things
yeah,
that we do to ourselves,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
we inflict that pain, and
yep,
we become a corroborator of our own murderers. You know, like
yeah,
there are certain things, like certain phrases that we use or that have been taught to us, like. And one of the things that we do that we use on the job a lot, and it's something that's been taught to us since we were kids, is that, you know, we bite our tongue, right?
mhm,
Somebody says something, it's a bad joke, or it's just they just say something inappropriate, or they make some, you know, comment like, "Hey, did you hear the new Cardi B song?" Like, how do you know I listen to Cardi B? You know what I mean? But it's like you don't want to react and be stereotyped as the angry black person, or you want to come
mhm,
off as like
mhm,
accommodating or whatever, and so you bite your tongue. But think about the literal physical meaning. Like if you literally bite your tongue, that means you're inflicting pain on yourself
right,
to avoid some type of conflict that may or may not happen.
mhm,
But you're
mhm,
inflicting pain on yourself, and when you bite your tongue, you're the one that hurts. You're the
right,
one that has pain from that. You're the one, you know. And so that's what we do in those environments, and that's what I realized I was doing for a long time, like ever since I was a kid in school, like biting my tongue, like not really knowing who I am and how I want people to relate to me, how I'm going to relate to other people, what I'm going to accept and what I'm not going to accept. And until I created that for myself, I couldn't go out and operate in this system, because unfortunately in this global system of dominance, which is white supremacy, it's built and shaped to keep us at an inferior position and not to
Mm-hmm.
have the same, not to be able to enjoy the same privileges as others.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are conscious or unconscious about how they carry out, the systematic prejudice. But as we operate as Black people in America, or Black people anywhere, any non-white person all over the globe, you have to create a rock solid personal identity, know who you are and what you stand for, know what you're going to take and what you're not going to take. And you have to know who your enemy is. You have to know what the system is and how it operates, so that you'll no longer be
Mm-hmm.
conflicted, confused, and confounded every time you run against
Right.
somebody that's doing something that's against your interests. Just know that it's not personal. Unfortunately, the system is in them, and they're just living it out.
That was deep what you said. I think when people you said the system is in them, and I think one thing I like to talk about, because I talk about cultural emotional intelligence, and the fact is that empathy and deep empathy is the ability to see from another's point of view and understand their feelings on a deep level.
Hmm.
And that does not mean that you have to agree with them. And me and Emmanuel Williams, we disagree a lot, but in certain areas, we're still able to develop empathy and understand perspective of
Sure.
what each other believes. And I think that that's a thing that we have to continue to embrace. We can't, Malcolm and Martin, we saw they had, conflicts of interest, but they still both wanted Black people to overcome and be on top. And so I think we have to learn from their um, examples and be able to see that that um, having empathy and being able to see from another person's point of view is so important. And so I'm only saying that because he said the system is inside of them.
Hmm.
And as we process information, we process ideals and things that we believe. There, we associate things with other things,
Yeah.
and that's how we get meaning. So when we talk about systems, and a lot of time when white people or when they talk about systems, it seems external. It seems like a machine. It seems like it's something that's outside of who they are.
Right. As
But
if
no,
they
it's
can. Yeah.
internal. It's an
Hmm.
actual, the system is inside of them. The system is inside the people who perpetuate it. It's not this, there's not a scapegoat to where we can talk about the system as the government. No, the government is just part of the system, but the system is people. We're
Hmm.
dealing with people, individual people, systems of people cooperating and working together to dominate, destroy, and control non-white people. And so that was a really important point I wanted to talk about there, which was the system is inside of them. But I want to go into what you were talking about, which was you had this kind of discovery of I need to find who I am. I need to know who I am now because I keep feeling a certain way. I feel this conflict. Um, like was this painful? Was this process of going from what you call liberation to maybe not being liberated? Was that a painful process? Tell me about that.
Yeah, it was really painful, man. It was disillusioning, and I didn't really understand what I was going through until like years later. And so,
Mm,
graduated, I think I was 22, started and then I got my job, just turned 23, got my job. And so um it took about 5 or 6 years in corporate America, and being 5 or 6 years removed from that utopia, which was Texas Southern University in Houston, Texas, to really
mm-hmm,
realize like I was depressed, bro. Like
mm,
I was
mm,
really depressed,
mm-hmm,
and I didn't understand what was happening.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
and I didn't really awaken to my level of depression and level of disillusionment until it was right in my face and it was visceral, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
when all the police killings were being shown on social media, and it was the Tamir
Yeah.
Rice and
Yeah.
Mike Brown and, you know,
Yeah.
Philando Castile, Alden Sterling, all that, man, just like Eric Garner, all of that, bro. It's just, that really made me question, like, what's going on? Like, why? So it's not just a Portland thing. I can't blame it on
Mm-hmm.
Portland white people. I can't blame it on Pacific Northwest white people. This is happening all over the country.
Yeah.
So what is going on? And then
Yeah.
and I was thinking, and I'm always trying to think of some type of solution, like how can we end this problem? And so my initial solution was, I was trying to think of a group of people that can come together and counteract this racist activity. And I was like, and I was a Christian at the time. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was like, oh shoot, well, I have brothers and sisters in Christ that are of all nationalities and all races.
Mm-hmm.
So because we have the Holy Spirit and we have the same spirit and we worship the same God and we're all brothers and sisters in Christ, we should all come together and be able to fight this racism and show some unity.
Mm-hmm.
But what I seen was that it did not play out that way. And I didn't see
Yeah.
white Christians having that same type of conviction that black Christians had. And I was like, wait, is racism stronger than the Holy Spirit? And that's borderline a blasphemous statement, you know what I mean, depending on how you take it. But I had to really examine it. I had to ask that question. And because I wasn't getting answers, then I went down a path of finding out, what is race? What is racism, and why is this so strong?
Mm-hmm.
And why is this so pervasive? Why is it everywhere? I don't understand where it came from. Why is it here? And why is it affecting us this way? And
Mm-hmm.
so, man, I just went down a rabbit hole of studying history and studying, you know, racist and counter-racist theory, and came across a lot of good authors, a lot of good books, had
I want to talk
some
about
amazing
the good
conversations.
authors, the good people that actually inspire you. Tell me some of the people that inspire you right now, and some of the people that have kind of been instrumental in your growth, so that the
Yeah,
audience can kind of look these folks up.
yeah, man. Like the first person that when I was searching, I was trying to figure out, like, what is race? Is it a real thing? You know, is it really biological, or is it just something that's made up? And I came across a video on YouTube of Dr. Joy DeGruy. Now, she's the author of the post-traumatic slave syndrome, PTSS. So, and I didn't get the book until like years later. So, but I watched her presentation, and the way that she broke it down, it's like an hour and a half, 2 hours, man. And that was the first person that really helped me on my journey to get there. And then I think the next person was Neely Fuller
Yeah,
Jr.
I remember. I was about to say, I knew you was gonna put in Neely because
Yeah, man. Neely Fuller Jr. was the one
yeah,
that, like, once I read his book,
supremacist.
because I was already listening to him, but
Mm-hmm.
once I read his book, I'm like, all right, bro, this is different. You know,
The
like,
book
how is this?
name? What's the book name?
The United Independent Compensatory Code Concept.
Okay, and y'all, you guys got to understand, it's harder to get these black books than like a lot of times on Amazon and stuff. You won't find them, so you really got to search and look. You know, when I was getting books from like Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, it was so hard to find, and I couldn't find like a new book. It was used and things like that. So sometimes we got to dig a little bit more for this information. But go ahead.
But yeah, man. So, and I left out a term on that title. It's the United Independent Compensatory Code System Concept by
Okay.
Neely Fuller Jr. Basically a textbook on counter racism. You know, and so,
Okay.
yeah, that really blew me away and opened up my mind to what white supremacy is, and that it's not, and racism is, and it's, you know, it's a system of interconnected things that, you know, all areas of activity are dominated by the white supremacists. So it's economics, education, entertainment, labor law, politics, religion, sex, and war. All those areas of people activity are dominated, and the narrative has been set by those that are in power. And so, and then after that, you know, some other people like Dr. Amos Wilson, amazing psychiatrist as well. Of course, like you said, Frances Cress Welsing,
Mm-hmm. I like her a lot.
John Henrik Clarke,
Right.
great historian, man. He wrote a book about, Christopher Columbus and what he calls the African Holocaust, and it's just about Columbus discovering, well, so-called discovering, but just like him finding what is the so-called Caribbean area, and then America, so-called Americas, and but like what life was like on the islands and the people and the tribes that were already there that he encountered,
Mm-hmm.
and just the history behind that, man. So just a lot of things have helped me on my journey of discovering, who I am, what I'm made of, and just what racism is and what it's all about.
Well, let me ask you this, because a lot of millennials, a lot of black folks now, are conflicted,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, they can kind of fall victim to white propaganda, and that it's not really about race anymore. That it's not,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's not important. It's really about, you hear you hear some rappers and some other folks talking about it's just about getting the bag, like racism
Mm-hmm.
and all that. It's only like this segmented small fraction is racism, and everything else is just, you know, oh, that's not racism. So let me ask you this: why do you think that um, so many, you know, black people now don't understand racism, or don't think that it's existing on so many planes?
I mean, it's because it's been normalized. Like this
Mhm.
life,
Mhm.
this status has been normalized.
So, I mean, you see so many black people now that say race is not a big issue anymore. It's not that, it's just almost selected few categories where racism exists, and then everything else is kind of okay. So why do you think that's happening with us?
I mean, part of it is like it's our own ego protection, like it's just a strategy to to feel like to not go through it. Sometimes we want to go around the issue as opposed to going through the issue. So one way
Mm-hmm.
of going around it is just in your mind thinking that it doesn't exist and it doesn't affect you. And so that just
Mm-hmm.
eases, your conscience, to be honest. And so people will say that and tell themselves that, but there will be certain times where they're reminded of it, but they'll ignore it as a strategy to be able to keep going. So that's one thing. Another
Mm-hmm.
thing
Mm-hmm.
is, everybody's in different parts of their journey. And so, some people have made it to the promised land, but some people haven't. Some people are wandering through the wilderness of white supremacy at this very moment. Like they're lost.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
disillusioned. Like they don't know what's going
You've
on.
been
They don't know.
bamboozled.
They've been bamboozled. They've been hoodwinked. They've been run amok. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are literally just wandering in the wilderness of white supremacy. They don't know if they're coming, if they're going. They don't know if they're okay, if they're safe, if they got white allies, or if they can trust people. Like they're just confused because they haven't determined who they are. They don't know if there is an enemy, or they don't want to believe that they have an enemy, that the system is built against them and that it's that bad. But they're just, like I
Yeah.
said, they're just wandering. And then there's other people that are just wading in the waters of white supremacy. So they're just chilling in it. You know what I mean? Like they
Mm-hmm.
don't even mind it. Like they found their lane. You know,
Yeah.
they hey, I can be a gatekeeper. Hey, if I do this, I'll, I
Right.
know how to finesse the system. So the system is good to me. Like I got my,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. I got this, I
Mm-hmm.
got that. I got this person in my pocket. I got this person. You know what I mean? So I'm cool with them. I go golf with him. We watch each other's kids. And so certain people are just wading in those waters of white supremacy and they don't mind it.
I call
And the
that
water, the
proximity to
water, the
whiteness.
water was cold at first, and now it feels good. You know what I
I,
mean? So
I call what you just said proximity to whiteness. I
yeah.
think we all have to examine that, is um and what I mean by whiteness, and we have different views on what whiteness is, but my definition of whiteness is two criteria, which is one, being non-melanated is part of the criteria, but the other part of the criteria is that you reinforce and perpetuate the systems of white supremacy.
Right.
So when I'm using the term white, that's what I mean. And so those people that are doing that, when I say proximity to whiteness, um, those folks that black or brown people that are associating with that are continuing to perpetuate the system of white supremacy. That's what I mean by whiteness. And so when we're uh, I guess I would say uh, we examine our relationship based off of some of the benefits that we uh, can take. And I
Right.
think there a lot of the misconception of white supremacy is that it's all pain and no pleasure. But really, there's parts of white supremacy that you can benefit from, and that's like a thing that you can't. Like, we have to be honest about it. It's like you can advance. You can make more money if you um, uh, fall in line with white supremacy. If you don't go against the grain, you can potentially even have uh, a house in a big house, and you can go and
Mhm.
talk to Massa, and he'll be okay with you doing X, Y, and Z. He might not kill your family. He might kill somebody else's family, but he might not kill your family. And so this protection, there's a certain level of protection and benefit to white supremacy, and I think that part has to be laid out, which is like, yo, um, if you want to live a life where you're about your people and you're about your people's well-being, you might have to deny some things, some benefits, some accolades, some um, uh, advancement in that way. It's delaying gratification. It's just like even when Caucasian people talk about it in their studies and things like that. They talk about this. This is a universal law that you're going to have to delay gratification for the right opportunities. And for us as Black people, we're going to have to delay some gratification. We're going to have to deny some opportunities. And I think a lot of people don't talk about that.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, man.
yeah,
But
man.
it's like, the value of the opportunity, the long term value, the foundation of it. What is it? What is it set upon? And where's the power dynamic? Where are you in that power dynamic of the opportunity that you are being given? What's the power dynamic of the seat that you have at the table? Whose table is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Whose seat is it? Is it yours or is it theirs? And so we use that rhetoric, and oh, we need a seat at the table. All right, well, if it ain't your table, it ain't your seat. They can ask you to come, and they can easily usher you out the door as well. And
Mm-hmm.
so
Mm-hmm.
um the main, what I try to do is teach people and coach people to put themselves in a position in every area of activity to have their own influence and their own power dynamic of strength and not of weakness. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's what we should be striving for. And that's why it's like it's a universal thing. If I could be in a position of strength when it comes to my economic position, I could be uh, when it comes to labor, to my work that I do. If I
Mm-hmm.
could be in a position of strength where I have leverage when it comes to education, when it comes to the type of entertainment that I take in, which is shaping my perception, which is therefore shaping my reality. Take if I take control of that, if I
Mm-hmm.
take control over my soul and my religious practices, and I take control, and I
You
put myself.
touching on some stuff
Yeah, and
about
like if
religion.
I worship a god or a system, worship in a system that has degraded me and subjugated me and exploited me and or led to the extermination of me and my people or others like me, you
Mm-hmm.
know, how does that like play out long term? How does that play out for my kids and my grandkids? What are they inheriting? You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's just like those are the things that we have to think about, and that we have to move in the opposite direction of the value systems that we've been given, because the value
Mm-hmm.
system that we've been given is not for us, it's for someone else, and it's maintaining and it's refining a system that has been set up to subjugate, exploit, and or exterminate us if we don't fall in line with it.
I want to get through a couple of questions here, man, because we talked about your journey and your story, but I really want to know, like, why are you so passionate about Black people? Because not everybody Black is passionate about Black people, and so why are you passionate about Black people, and why are you passionate about identity? Like, what's that?
I ask myself that question every day, bro.
Hmm.
I just think this is my life's goal. Like this is my life's work.
Hmm.
Um, you know, my passion and my drive to do this type of thing. I would like to say that, you know, we should all have some type of drive to be able to empower our people, but it's not necessary. Like you said, it's not for everybody. And I just feel like I've been chosen to do this. You know, like this is something that I can't get away from.
Hmm.
Not
Won't
in
let
like
you
a
sleep. It won't let you sleep if you don't do it right.
that- but you know, it's just it's like a natural curiosity and a natural proclivity for me for whatever reason. Like I don't know, man. I don't know, you know, what ancestors is like, hey yo, he's the one. You know, I don't know and what past life, you know, what I was and why I'm doing this right now. You know, I don't know what was done hundreds and thousands of years ago to get me to this point to be this person. You know what I mean? I don't know what Malcolm and Martin and Marcus Garvey and Elijah Muhammad and all these folks that have passed and gone away. I don't know what they say to themselves when they see me and they think about me. And I don't know what energy I'm receiving, bro. But like this is just who I am. And it's a part of me, bro. You know, so I've been through so much. I've been I've been raised in a certain environment that I'm able to actually go out and do this. Like it's very hard to reshape your whole identity because your personal, like we always think of ourselves as an individual, but you're not an individual. Everything that you do has group ramifications, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your immediate family, your social circle, all of that has group ramifications. But you know, I'm the youngest of four. Once again, grew up in Portland, and I'm in a unique position where I don't have like as strong of an attachment to my external family, which is like it doesn't sound like the most positive thing, but I don't like we're the
Like,
only
I
one.
hate my family, and
No.
I know, I
It's
know.
just, but it's like, you know, a lot of people won't do things because they don't want to feel alienated from their family
Right.
or feel
It's so,
alienated from certain traditions and social circles. But
yeah.
like all I've had was my immediate family my whole life. I didn't have
Mhm.
any aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents out here in Portland. My parents are
Mhm.
from Ohio. My dad took a job out here in '82, and he stayed out here, and we were the only ones here. So like I grew up without aunts, uncles, cousins, and so it's just like if I leave the church and I leave my religion, I don't leave like a whole family tradition where my whole family life is rooted in going to church.
Mhm.
You know what I
Mhm.
mean? But
Mhm.
I can reform that part of me because I'm not giving up a whole set of like activities that is integral to who I am. So it's a gift and a curse. But because that is my position, I'm able to do that. And because I'm able to do that, I've been able to understand and realize some things that I've been ignoring for so long, but I didn't want to do it out of fear of, you know, some type of rejection from my
Alienation
social
from the
circle,
social
you know,
group.
because a lot of my
Yeah.
friends and relationships came from the church.
Yeah.
And I still have some of those friendships. Some of those are gone, but some of them are still here. But those are the ones that matter the most to me anyway. And I've been able to create other social circles and gain friends and community and build community from that. So
Well,
there's a lot of things that have been able to allow me to just put me in a position to be able to do this type of work, man. Because it's hard work.
well,
It's not comfortable. It's not easy.
I see that, and and as a millennial, you're a millennial, I'm a millennial, and I think we have a different relationship with our friends and social circle than a lot of other generations before us,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, you probably hear that in the background, that loud thing. But millennials, we care about our friends and we care about our extended social circles.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of that might have been because a lot of us grew up in single parent homes or, broken families. Or some of us didn't have as big family groups. I think a lot of people with more siblings, they have a tight knit kind of group, and family means a lot more. I mean, I'm not saying that you don't think that family means a lot more, but as millennials, we kind of understand that. We understand about, hey, if you ride with me, you ride with me. If you don't, deuces. But I still got my friends. I still got whatever. You might have friends that are closer to you than your cousins,
Mm-hmm.
or whatever the case is. So, with that being said, you kind of summed up that, you're passionate about Black people because it just seems a part of who you are. It wouldn't let you leave. And then part of that was your ability to be able, you didn't have uh your transition wasn't horrible. Like you didn't, it wasn't like, your second pastor's third generation of Williamses was in the
Right.
church, and
Hey, my,
because
my my dad is a pastor though. I mean, my family is heavy in the church, but once again, I'm not relying on that network because they're somewhere else. You know what I mean? So it's just like, of course, like me and my parents have an amazing relationship still. So I
Mhm.
didn't lose that, but it's not like I lost out on a huge, meaningful network of family that everything that they did was based upon that. But also a part of the identity piece for me is that I know what it's like to be the other. I know what it's like to not have a large group around you to protect you, which you really need as a human being.
Mhm.
But um, with without having that, and without being around all your aunts and your uncles and grandparents growing up, you don't necessarily know who you are.
Hmm.
Because I mean, who I am literally like my dad. You know what I mean? Like the Y chromosome, my chromosome is the same Y chromosome that his dad has and that my great grand, like I am them. And so I don't fully know who I am because I don't even fully know my grandparents, my uncles, like I don't know me. Like I am everywhere. Like we are all connected, but I don't physically and really know them as well as I should. Not to say that we haven't gone to many family reunions, but like, so my personal identity, like I had to create it
Hmm.
growing up here. Like I
Mhm.
I had to I had to make it my own. Like I had to, you know, take my dad out to lunch, take my dad out to dinner. Like I had to pick his brain. Like I really had to figure out who he was so I can know who I am. You know what I mean? And
So you
so
also went to culture. You went to culture, which is, no understanding Blackness and understanding that, but you also went to your family line to understand who you are.
yeah, I mean the blackness, like, and we can get into that, like the construct of race, but the blackness is just, it's my people, like my group of people, my family, and other genetic ancestors that look like me, and we're somewhat related, and all of that type of stuff. So that's the blackness piece.
Mhm.
And the blackness is like really just feeling comfortable in your own skin and being able to be who you are unapologetically. Like that's the ultimate expression of blackness, is like not even having to think about your blackness. You know what I mean? Like, and that's some of the
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
some of the privilege that a lot of whites in America have. Like they don't have to think about who they, what their race is or what their group is, because they're the privileged group. And there's so many of them, like it's not in question, it's not under attack. They're just living their lives. And
Your
so that's why
identity isn't under
when
attack.
you have
Yeah.
when you have
Protected.
racial conversations with white folks, like of course it's not going to resonate with them the same way it resonates with you, because their outer appearance is not in question by others and not being discriminated and exploited. So yeah, man, those are just some of those things that lean into me being creating my own identity and wanting to go into coaching and having a passion for that.
I want to segue into something because um it's important that you're into your identity, and it's important that you care about Black people. But in a sense, if you don't have action to back it up, who cares, right? And so there's
Right.
something about you that I want to highlight, which is the fact that you um, are developing personally and professionally, growing on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So you're doing action steps towards the work that you're talking about. I mean, you're reading, you're studying, you're meeting with uh, other leaders, influencers, um, counseling with people, and putting your money where your mouth is. You're putting money into you. You're investing into yourself. So this process of personal and professional growth is real for you because I know you. Tell me about that process of growth, and this is really why I believe you're a high performer, is because of the things that you do when people aren't noticing it. Tell us about your personal and professional growth process, like what you're doing. What are you doing on a regular basis?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm always having conversations. Like, and that's where it starts, man. I'm trying to go through it. I want to learn as much as possible, and I want to be able to operate in those environments where I'm having those challenging conversations with people as much as possible, because we can theorize all we want, but if we can't be practitioners of our theory, then
Mm-hmm.
it's just words on paper that mean nothing to nobody. You know what I mean? And so, and that was the whole impetus behind me starting the Socks and Sandals podcast. Like, Socks and Sandals is like a fashion faux pas. Like, you're not supposed to wear socks and sandals
Mm-hmm.
according to certain like European fashion, but I'm not European. And I wear socks and sandals, and I'm comfortable wearing socks and sandals. So I don't care what you say. I don't care what you think. I don't care what your standards are. This is how I get down, and this is what I do. And there was certain, back when I was forming this, like back in 2015, 2016ish, political correctness was heavy. You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I wanted to have these meaningful conversations about race, about religion, about worldview. And I want to know, like, why do you believe this?
Well,
Why is this right? Why is this true to you? Why does this resonate? And
let,
am
let,
I right?
let-
Am I wrong?
so talk about some of the sacrifices that you've made to grow and develop personally and professionally.
I would say the main sacrifice that I did was I walked away from a very lucrative sales job that I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that was 2 years ago. Yeah, I walked away, just quit. Um, and the reason for me quitting and pursuing my podcast full time um, is because that job was killing my soul. Like, I, I was so good at sales, and I was so good at what I did, is that like I wasn't challenged anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then not being challenged, I just wasn't stimulated as a person, and I wasn't excited to get up and go there and do the same thing.
Over and over again.
And
Mm-hmm.
it comes to a point where, like, if you're making money but you're not necessarily proud or inspired by what you're doing,
Mm-hmm.
um then it's like, what is it? I'm actually going nowhere, you know
Mm-hmm.
and when you realize that money is not going to make you happy, then you have to go after that. And so going after that means I'm walking away from my job. I'm pursuing my passion, which is not necessarily paying like what I would like to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Mm-hmm.
I have to take that leap. And I took that leap of faith.
Was it
And
scary?
oh, for sure it was scary. It was scary, but I was
Tell us
also
about that process.
yeah, man, the process was crazy. So I think I walked away. I think I quit like May 1st, 2018, if I'm not mistaken. I had told my wife in the fall of 2017 that I'm going to leave this job. Like I had been wanting to get out of there for quite
I
some
remember
time.
that time too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but I told her like, this is what I'm going to do. Okay. So, um, get my credit up, get my credit score up. Early 2018, I'm going to refinance the house. So we're going to get a lower payment on our mortgage. I'm going to pay off your car because we still had an amount on her car. So that was like a monthly bill that I needed to get out of there because I knew my finances weren't going to be where they were.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to modify a few things of what we do and just certain bills that we have. We're going to cut the cable. We're going to go you know, just the streaming route, like, just
You had to
do.
prepare. You had to really you
You have
thought
to
this out.
prepare.
Yeah, yeah.
Got to prepare for your new lifestyle. And so I took the time to prepare that way to minimize our expenses. Um, and yeah, and then, I was already doing a podcast. It was like I was a year strong, a little over a year strong, and it had taken off to a point where I didn't anticipate it. I had no idea where that was going to take me, but it started taking me places, and then I started monetizing, and then I got last year I got the teaching gig of doing a podcast course with SEI, nonprofit foundation, and I was getting other gigs here and there, just contracting, producing content for nonprofit organizations, and just
I wanted to interrupt because you like that process. A lot of people are afraid to go through that process of like, you got stability,
yeah,
you got a good paycheck,
yeah,
but I'm dying on the inside,
yeah,
and I'm not willing to sacrifice my peace of mind and my deeper goals for a paycheck. And I think I add to that. I feel like I can make just as much money betting on me than I could um, working somebody else.
yeah. And at the end of that, I mean, yeah, I was making money, but it's still at the mercy of somebody else. Like I didn't control my commission schedule, you know.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I had like a $2 million book of business in insurance, but I wasn't seeing even 10% of that. You know what I mean? So it's just like it wasn't up to me. I was making good money, but it nothing was up to me. It was always up to someone else. Someone else controlled my schedule. Someone else had to ask for permission to leave work early to go to my son's, recital. Like it was certain things that I was doing that I had to do. Some things that we accept and we normalize as just like this is how life is and this is how it's supposed to be because that's how society is. But I'm realizing like it doesn't have to be that way. And once again, when you realize that money is not going to make you happy, it's like what's going to make you happy is having time and being able to create your own schedule and being able to be with your loved ones when you need to be with them, when you want to be with them. And that if you're not happy, if you're miserable, you're broke. Like being broke is not about money because money's gonna come, is gonna go. You can make 80,000, you make 90, you make 100,000, 120,000, and you can be miserable and feel like you want to kill yourself. You can be miserable and feel like you don't want to get up in the morning. You could be miserable and eat yourself into diabetes or a heart attack. Like you can make a lot of money and be dying on the inside. So if you're not happy, if you're not content, you're broke and you're going to die.
That's a different type, and I think that's why you talked about universal. You talked about universal wealth, and I think that's part of the understanding is that wealth is not just monetary. Your health
No.
is a form of wealth.
Yeah.
Your energy levels, all these different things are a form of wealth. And so it's amazing that you kind of talked about that a little bit. I want to, but before we close today, I really want to talk about these um, strategies
Mm-hmm.
that we can use as black people, as brown people to um, counter white supremacy.
For sure.
This is my take. I believe that we're all soaked in whiteness. I mean, black, white, brown. We're all just. I mean, white supremacy has its hold on us for a long time, and so to act like we're not affected by it, or to act like we don't even we're not even being manipulated by it subconsciously, I think would be really arrogant. And so detangling from whiteness and moving away from whiteness is a huge part of everybody's journey that really wants to be truly liberated and inspire folks. So can you tell me, you know, give me some definitions of white supremacy,
Mm-hmm.
how it's displayed, some common forms that you see, and how you see it showing up in your professional career, in your personal life. Yeah.
Yeah, man. I mean, the definition that I generally go by when it comes to white supremacy and racism, for one, white supremacy and racism to me is the same thing. It's they're
Okay.
interchangeable terms that I use, but they mean the same thing. And basically, white supremacy is systematic prejudice that is set to subjugate, exploit people all over the world. And if you don't allow me to subjugate you and exploit you, then I will exterminate you. You
Hmm.
know, and so that's what white supremacy is: systematic prejudice, and it's the domination, maintenance, and refinement and control um, of all non-white people in every area of activity. So, you know, the goal of white supremacy is also to produce thought, speech, and action that upholds whiteness and degrades non-whiteness. And so, every area of activity, people activity, has to be dominated and controlled for one to be supreme. And so, those areas once again are um, education, economics, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war.
Wow. So a lot of people, they talk about white supremacy through this like this really primitive and basic lens, which is like, okay, it's either your you have a white sheet, or you're shooting somebody, and everything else is not white supremacy. You talked about all areas of people activity. I want you to really start to explain that to the audience.
Yeah, man. I like to break it down like with a more current use. Like that's the more like scholastic, borderline clinical way of talking about it. But I kind of I kind of like to refer back to the Marvel comic universe, you know what I mean? And it's like the Infinity Stones. And you know, we've all seen, well, not all of us, but if you have seen, you know, Avengers and the End Game and all that and the Civil War, like you know that you've seen how when Thanos got all the stones, he had all the power. And when he had all the power, he could do anything. He could snap his finger and people would disintegrate. And
Yeah.
that's what white supremacy is. You have all the stones, the infinity stones of people activity. And if you have power, you have a decent amount of power when you just have a few of them. But when you have all of them, you have absolute power. And that's what white supremacy is. They have the infinity stones of power. And so those infinity stones are broken up as space, time, um, mind, reality, power, and soul. And so if we take the infinity stone model, we can put all those 9 areas of people activity in there. And so the space stone, the way that I see it, the way that I framed it is the space stone is like um, romantic relationships and family dynamic, or even like sexual relationships. So that would be the sex category. But that's the space stone. So basically, for us, the way that we look at it is, how do I take the space stone back from Thanos, who is Thanos represents systematic white supremacy? How do I take the space stone back? So that means family, the family ideals that I have, the way that I operate in my family, the way that I operate in my marriage, is this based upon European ideals, or is this based upon ideals that actually reflect who I am, my value system, and my culture? You
Right.
know, do I think that the nuclear household is the best way to go, or do I think that I should be operating and interacting with my family on more of a village model, interacting with my people on more of a village model? You know, and so those are things to consider when you're talking about reclaiming that space stone. When we think about the mind stone, I think I would refer the mind activities of the mind to politics. So
Yeah.
politics are how people relate with other people that's not their family. And so the way, like, do I play the political game the same way that the Europeans have set up the political game with this democracy and this two-party system?
Right. That you have to be in. You have to fall into in order to. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, does that represent me and my interests and who I am? Is that my values, or is that their values? And how do I want to relate to people and deal with people, who are not my family? How do I want to interact with them, and how do I want to allow them to interact with me? You know what I mean? That's how I attack that, and take that mind stone back. And then there's the time stone. And so the time infinity stone will represent economics and labor, right? And so economics is basically how
Mm,
you spend your time and your energy, and labor is the disbursement of that time and that energy. And so you're typically rewarded economically through the current tool, which is money. It used to be gold back in the day, or certain parts of the world it was, you will be rewarded in cattle. You know what I mean? But the economics is economics. And so the time stone is how you use your time and your energy, and how you're rewarded for it. If you have a lot of money, then that means you have time to do other things. If you don't have a lot of money,
you
then
don't
that
have
means you
no
have to
time.
then that means you have to get paid for your time. So you have to give your labor and your time to be able to get money. So that's how. So how do we reframe our economic situation? How do we reframe how we labor, and who benefits from the labor, and who controls the labor, and the value that we get for our labor, right? And so that's retaking the time stone, like building our lives in a way that doesn't value and doesn't benefit the system, and have these European values that we don't necessarily value ourselves, and that are against our advancement, right? And so then there's the reality stone. I
Yeah.
would
That's where
create the
we go.
reality
You got to
stone.
get woke. Yeah.
Yeah, I would relate the reality stone to entertainment. And so
Yeah.
entertainment shapes our perception. I would say entertainment and education, because our reality is based upon our perception of the information that we receive. And so entertainment shapes our perception of the world. And people say, oh, representation matters, and Oscar's so white. And what are they saying? Their perception and their reality is being formed by entertainment, and they would feel better about themselves, and they think that their kids might feel better about themselves if they consume entertainment that represents them in the proper way. And also in education, that affects your perception, because what you learn is that's the information that's going in your brain, and you're going to operate and have knowledge based upon what you learn in school. And so we got to think about what the schools are teaching our kids, and now what the kids are thinking about themselves. All they know about America is that Christopher Columbus found America. What they know about Thomas Jefferson, that he was a great man. What they know about George Washington is that he was the first president, but they don't know that they were slave owners, and that they were rapists, and they were, then
Worst.
they were racist. You know what I mean? Like they don't know. So their perception of these people is that they're cool. Like, we got a high school in Portland, Oregon, called Jefferson High School, and they're proud, and that's not a knock on all my homies that went to Jeff, but it's like, oh, they're proud demos, they're proud Democrats. Why are you proud to be a Democrat? Why are you proud to represent Thomas Jefferson? Do you know that if Thomas Jefferson was right here, right now, he would look at all of y'all's moms and see who he wants to rape for the night? Do you know that's how Thomas Jefferson would be giving it up if he was in your face right now?
Mm,
You know
mm.
that Thomas Jefferson would whip or kill you, or have you whipped or killed if you spoke against? Do you know what type of man that you're putting on your back, and the jersey that you're putting across your chest? Like, does this really represent you and represent your values, or does it just reinforce some BS that's been placed upon us, and now we've been rocked to sleep? You know what I mean? Still, once again, wandering in the wilderness of white supremacy, not knowing what we're doing to ourselves. You know what I mean? So that's the reality stone. Reframing our perception through the entertainment that we take on, that we indulge in, and the education that we allow and accept, and that we, the way that we educate our children. Two more stones. There's the power stone and the soul stone. So the power stone, I would equate power to, like, the people activities of war and law,
Okay.
right? So like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
military, like that's That's power right there. You know, when you have a military that can enforce your law, so you create these laws, statutes, and commandments that benefit you and your people, right? And it benefits your society. Now the laws as they work out, you know, when it comes to blacks in America, they're not in our favor. You know, we're adversely affected, disproportionately affected by the law.
By the law.
We're disproportionately
Yeah.
affected by the military. And part of the military system is the police, CIA, FBI. You know what I mean? Like all of that works as military. And we already know what the CIA has done to, you know, black revolutionaries in the 60s and even before that, and even up to this day, COINTELPRO, all that type of stuff. So that's a power dynamic. And so, you know, how do we reshape and reform how we relate to that power structure, and how do we cultivate a better power structure for ourselves through the law and through military militia type stuff. And then lastly, the soul stone, which I would relate to, once again, the religion area of activity. And so, like I said earlier, like, how does your religion serve you? Like, why? Yeah,
people's religion is so, you know, with my journey as well. You know, like I've had, you know, I've been a Christian my whole life basically, and I've moved away from Christianity and into something that still to be discovered. But the point is that it's been a painful process. You know, it's been a hard process, and when you're talking to people, it's like, damn, this seems to be my foundation. But what if my foundation doesn't serve me? You know, what if my foundation doesn't serve me long term, or doesn't serve my people long term?
Right.
Is it, you know, can I scrap it and create something new? Well, I think you can, because it's your life and you only got one here. So, you know, making these decisions sometimes are painful and they're difficult, but you can make it. You can, like, as your example, as I'm an example, you can go away. You can move away from what's common, become uncommon, and be a high performer and be elite in what you do by making these tough decisions.
Yeah. And the most important part about these, you know, these infinity stones of global supremacy is that, you know, you can't attack every area all at once. What Neely Fuller talks about when it comes to his suggestion of what it takes to dismantle white supremacy, if you dominate one area, you can dominate them all. If you can dominate just one area and you can take that stone, then you can, because Thanos can't snap his fingers and make people disintegrate if he doesn't have all of the stones, right? So if you got one stone, then that means that's some leverage that he doesn't have maximum leverage. And so, and even you can think about business, like you have to dominate something. And if you dominate one thing, then you can start picking off other things. You think about Apple, like they dominated the computer industry. And once they dominated computers, then they just went into phones. Now they got, you know, Beats by Dre. Now they got the headphones, all these accessories, all this technology. They got Apple TV. They can start dabbling and start taking over other parts of society because they dominated the computer industry. You think about Amazon, bro. They dominated books. Bookstores across America are gone except for a few niche bookstores that have a strong brand. But Amazon dominated books. And then they just started, DVDs, CDs, boom, boom. And then they just started taking over the retail industry just all together. And now Amazon
start small is what you're saying.
You start small and you focus on an area that whatever area is the most attainable. And so what I say for us as Black folks is, man, hey, right now, man, I should be charging you for this game right now, bro, because I'm giving away the systems, man. But it's for you, bro. It's for this podcast and your listeners, man, because I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. So the two areas that we have the most influence over, that we can take over, and without external like troubles of someone else, impeding our progress, is the space stone and the soul stone. Space, once again, is family, interpersonal relationships, romantic relationships. We have the power to individually every day work on those and reframe those and reshape those to make sure that they benefit us and they serve us as much as possible, and that we don't feed into the European way of doing things.
And if they want to go deep, they need to go contact you and get
Sure.
that game. So, you talked about your social media. Did you give them? Do you do emails or do you
Yeah,
not?
email for sure. Yeah, you can reach me, Socks and Sandals podcast, SOXANDSANDALS podcast. So Socks and Sandals podcast at gmail.com. That's how you reach me.
Okay.
And then tap into the Socks and Sandals podcast. I'm releasing episodes every week, so you can hear me talk and hear me have just constructive conversations with folks, man, because I'm talking about things of this nature a lot. I don't necessarily talk about it every week, because I am talking to a lot of entrepreneurs, business people, talking about their journey, nonprofit executive directors, talking about race, religion, talking about a lot of topics, but it's all leaning towards Black empowerment, so.
That's tight, man. We got some great game from you today. Appreciate you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, bro.
Taking your time, explaining to us. I think what's going to have to happen is we're going to have to do another episode where we really focus on counter racist tactics. I really feel like that is an area that I'd really like to learn from you. If you felt like you could give us some principles around that, that would be amazing, man.
Yeah, I'm with it, bro. We can definitely get into that, because there's a lot to be said about that. So for sure, we can do that, bro.
Yeah. Well, everybody, this is the People Man Talks podcast. This is Emmanuel Solomon, the People Man. Hope you guys are doing well in this Corona life, man. But we're out. Talk to you soon.